Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Home Dad Chat. Tonight, we are going to have a wonderful conversation with a good friend of ours, Ariel Isenberg, and we're going to be talking about Hanukkah. And I have not really celebrated Hanukkah as like part of my tradition or my family, but I did get involved in celebrating Hanukkah in a very interesting way just a couple of years ago. And Danny, I don't know, have you had any experience with celebrating Hanukkah?
Well, I've never celebrated it, no, but have had friends throughout my life who have, and studied a little bit about Jewish tradition and just various things, basically, because it was, for me, it was the precursor to Christianity, which was what I was learning to be. So it's understanding the words that we use and why we use them, what they came from, and that led me more to figuring out, especially because, I again, we said this last week, but I didn't grow up celebrating Christmas.
Right.
So Christmas was no big holiday to me. So Hanukkah honestly was just as important, which is kind of just middling important. I didn't celebrate either one. So it was kind of cool for me because a lot of what I learned about Passover, as an example, as a kid, being raised as a Christian, lent itself to understanding more about the Jewish community or about the Hebrew language. So I was a little familiar. I'm definitely, especially not now, because that was 35 years ago or so. So it's all blurry at this point. But
hopefully we'll all learn something new then from it. So I know that's what I'm looking forward to. And so we'll have Ariel in here in just a bit here to talk. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see he's just kind of hanging out on screen and watching us right now. And
it's not his turn to talk.
Not his turn to talk.
Cut him off, sir.
We'll get him in there. But before that, so we're going to start a new segment, and it kind of falls in line with something old that we've been doing. So something new, something old, not a wedding, but but basically, we've always talked about the things, how our week was and that kind of deal. But one of the things that we wanted to build into that and invite the listeners into is being able to share what's been going on with you. So what we want to see is for listeners to hop onto Anchor and just put in a short little, I think you get like about 30 seconds or so, and let us know like who you are, where you're from, and what's something good that happened this past week for you. And then we're going to take those little snippets and we're going to put them all into a segment in the middle of the show so that everybody can hear what's going on and kind of just build a little bit of community with that. So Danny, how was your week, and what's something good that happened for you, man?
My week's been pretty busy. We got back to school, of course, yesterday after the holidays. Everybody had a week off. I pushed everybody's bedtime a little bit later, and we kind of paid for it on Monday morning, but it was good. It was really something that we wanted to do because we had just some extra time. We didn't have to get up in the morning. We might as well, they're going to sleep in. Sometimes the older kids did, the younger kids didn't. But I really enjoyed, the best part of it, I think, for me, is because they got to stay up a little bit later. Of course, they were very happy. But then they still kind of got up early in the morning, and it was just 2 instead of 4. Which it's still 2 kids, but it's a lot of time this week that I got to spend just with my littles, nice. Whereas usually it was the other way around, where I had to get up my grumpy teenagers and get them out the door. But my littles were kind of just happier, and we'd sit around and we had breakfast, and we, what do we want for breakfast? We want to make breakfast, or we want to get something out of the freezer or whatever, because we have some little nasty, like, sausage, egg, and cheese croissant things that they love. And I'm like, sure, eat them. You can have dad, sure. But some days we cooked, and some days we just took things, and sometimes we just had toast. It was fine. But I think I'm really most grateful for having done that in hindsight, although it really was difficult Monday getting everybody back on schedule.
Yeah.
But having that extra time at night, so we got to watch a couple of movies. We did end up watching The Nightmare Before Christmas eventually. Okay. So got some good movies in this last week, or at least snippets, parts of most movies.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So that was it for me. How about you, man? How's your week and what's been great?
For me, the week was good. So Thanksgiving, we watched 8-Bit Christmas, which I was really excited about. And we talked about that on the show, just as an upcoming movie. And so that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. We also just we were watching, Charlie Brown Christmas, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, all that stuff on Apple TV. And I've got to make one retraction because I got my my balls busted last night during Dad Lounge from Grady Black because he was like, "You messed up, man, with the whole National Lampoon thing." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "George Burns wasn't in National Lampoon." And I'm like, "What?" And I did not pull up Google when I was talking about that. And I was like, "What? No way." And I looked at it and I was like, "Oh my God, you're right. It was William Hickey. That's who Grandpa Lewis was." So or Uncle Lewis was. So
you said it and I just blame my bad memory. I'm like, oh heck, George Burns. Awesome. I love George because he was one of those guys that always smoked a cigar. And I remember
it was
that
a
even
cigar
as a
thing.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like 99 and a half years old and he's still smoking a cigar. Like, I don't care. I'm going to smoke a cigar. And so I'm glad you made that correction though. Cause that I was like, I just went with it because I figured you knew what you were talking about.
Oh man. As soon as I jumped on, Grady was like, "I have a bone to pick with you." I'm like, "Oh crap." I knew I was in trouble. And then
Grady's not gonna let you get away with it.
No, he's not. And then on top of it, he also pointed out to me something that I didn't really think about, and that's the fact that Bethany, the other, his wife in the show, Mae Questel, was actually the voice of Betty Boop. From the old Popeye movie or from that old Popeye era, with Popeye and, that kind of era, you have Betty Boop in there as well. But yeah, so she was the voice of Betty Boop, which makes total sense when you listen to her. But yeah, so anyway, apologies for anybody who was like, "What are you talking about, George Burns?" So, I blame it on the whiskey.
Proof positive. We don't know what we're talking about sometimes.
So we watched lots of movies too, ate lots of pumpkin pie. My wife, by the way, makes an amazing pumpkin pie. And so we were enjoying pumpkin pie and staying up late, watching, just all kinds of shows and stuff and just having a good time. But I think that for us, the thing that was what I enjoyed the most was we had our friend over who sadly became a widow a month ago due to COVID. And we had her over for dinner and got to talk with her a bit. And I think for me, that was the big highlight, just getting to spend time with her. And then my wife actually spent time with her just the other night going through wedding pictures because apparently they were married for 9 years and they never printed off any of their wedding pictures. And so it was one of those things where he was a man that he had to really think through things, and he thought way too much into it to where they never pulled the trigger on being able to actually get the pictures printed. And so she was saying that she wanted to get some printed up for Christmas for everybody as gifts. And so my wife sat with her and went through a bunch of that stuff. So it was just a good healing process, I think, for all of us to be able to just kind of sit together and talk with her and just love on her. Mm-hmm. So that was the good thing for us this week. And my kids going back to school has been rough, and that's a whole nother line. We won't even get into that because that'll take up the whole rest of the show talking about that craziness. That's why I've poured myself a double of scotch tonight just to get through things. Yeah. But aside from that, if anybody else has stuff, make sure to send it to us so that we can hear what's going on good in your life. If it's anything, it can be just fun stuff too. I mean, honestly, we were joking about the fact of hey, I potty trained my kid. It was awesome. It could even be something fun as far as hey, I changed my kid's diaper and they peed on me. The other one passage. Yeah. Well, the other one that's really bad is, my kid crapped in the toilet or crapped in the tub while I was trying to give him a bath kind of thing. He had to wash all the toys. So whatever it is, we want to hear it. So share it with us. And we're walking around right alongside you in life with all this. And these are a lot of things that we've all experienced. So, but tonight on the show, talking Hanukkah, we have our good friend, Ariel Isenberg. So we want to bring him on. And Ariel, you are free to jump on and start talking to us, man. How are you doing?
I am doing great, Brock. Thank you so much for you and Danny for having me on. You were mentioning your wife's pie. I got to say, my wife has you beat. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
She made a pumpkin cheesecake topped with a pecan brulee
Ooh,
and a graham cracker crust, and it's phenomenal.
that does sound
And,
phenomenal. And I love
and
cheesecake, so I would like it. My wife would not eat it.
and it's actually vegan. So
Ooh, okay.
my one daughter who despises tofu will actually eat tofu now because of this pie. So all,
Okay.
Sweet.
you know, contrast between different cuisines aside, it was a good time. And I opened tonight a Abalor Una for the occasion. You poured yourself a double. I poured myself a single. It's cask strength. So
Ooh, yeah.
A single is
Avalor
a double
cast
in
strength
cast
is a
strength for
rough,
sure.
yeah.
But it sounds
And-
good nonetheless, man. That's awesome. And Danny, you got something too, man.
I have I will call it an early Christmas present, but really it was just a buddy of mine, Terry, who just said, you need some better bourbon in your life. And he sent me sample bottles of some of his favorites. And this was number 5 of 5. He said, start at this one and go this way. And it's Old Forester Statesman.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is number 5. All right, let's go. I want to know where number 1 is pretty quick. So
he's starting there at number 5. That's pretty good.
Right. I'm like, where are we going, man?
Right.
I did look it up a little bit. I'm like, okay, because I want to figure too, because I've got 5 of them. I'm hoping one of them I'm just going to have it and be like, oh man, this is it forever. This is what I want. And then I can find and go to my local guy, the bottle shop here in town, and be like, hey, buddy. And I don't remember his name now, dang it, but I'll remember his name when I see him. Like, hey, Johnny Joe, whatever your name is, remember me? And he will, because I've got a Georgia accent and
Yeah, so
Mohawk,
you're new to the neighborhood. You can get away with not knowing.
I stick
Well,
out.
Danny, let me just say that there is no favorite or forever bourbon, but there is always a go-to bourbon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's always room for expansion, whether it be bourbon or scotch or any other kind of single malt. But there's always
sure.
a go-to.
This one is so good, this Old Forester. I mean,
Yeah, when
it's
you
got
said
a
it was
little bit of burn after, but yeah.
when you said it was Old Forester earlier on, I thought you meant like just like their base model. I didn't realize like you had the Statesman. That's some good stuff. So well, kudos to your buddy. He's setting you up well. So I'm curious to know what else you got in there.
he's a man among men for sure. He has been he's an incredibly generous person. He's a very knowledgeable person, and I love just knowing him. I wish we lived closer. And he's definitely treating me right. That's for sure. I don't know what I've done, but I'm glad whatever I did it,
Well,
anyway.
Before we get too far down this rabbit hole of things, what you got there, man? You got Dreidel?
Oh, you got a little dreidel.
Okay.
I made this one out of wood.
Okay, it's not made out of clay.
Nice.
It's not made out of clay. I made this one out of wood. And when I tried to spin it, I knew I would win it if I could. So thank you both for having me on. So now that we're past the whiskey part and the one good thing for this week part, what can I tell you, gentlemen?
Man, so all right, I'll just go to this. History-wise for me in Hanukkah, I was telling Danny this before we jumped on. I grew up Catholic, and I grew up in a small area where there wasn't a whole lot much more culture-wise outside of that. I didn't really learn about Hanukkah until I heard Adam Sandler sing about it on Saturday Night Live.
Well,
so I will say that while Hanukkah is a very popular American holiday, it's not necessarily a religious or a major Jewish holiday. It's majorly observed.
Yeah.
But it's not the type of holiday like Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, which is talked about in the Old Testament itself. The events that happened during Hanukkah happened after the writing of the Old Testament. So it's a joyous holiday, but it's not a religious holiday per se.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I was finding when I was just kind of like doing some like light Google searching through. That was also surprising to me, because you do see it celebrated so like widely and out in the open around the United States, and two, like, I don't know, like it's just one of those things where, if you live in an area where there's enough like diversity, you're going to come across different types of things. Like, for instance, like here in Cincinnati, like we have a very large Jewish community actually here in town. And so like our big Christmas display, like lights and things at the zoo, is called the Festival of Lights. And they actually even have like a section that you can walk through where they have like the menorah, and they light they light a candle for every single night for that, which is really cool. And so it gives people the opportunity for that. But I just also found out recently, and my family is going to go do this either tomorrow night or maybe even Thursday night, is that one of the local academies, Jewish academies, actually is putting on a drive-through, it's a drive-through Hanukkah display with like where they've got like a radio station that you can listen to and actually tell you like the story, and there's songs, and like it's a really neat educational thing. I actually heard about it on NPR, and I was like, oh, I've got to do this, and it's free to like drive through.
Shout out to Sirius XM. I hope
Yeah.
it's okay that I'm saying this.
Yeah, dude, man.
Have a Hanukkah station.
Oh, cool.
Going right now. So I've always appreciated that they're so inclusive. And when you say, the display called a Festival of Lights, I think it's also important in the interest of inclusivity to note how many different cultures have a holiday around the winter solstice time. I know a lot of our Hindu friends just celebrated Diwali as well, which also is the Festival of Lights.
Okay. That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's really cool. So, and like we were talking about, like the history of Hanukkah, it goes back into the Old Testament Maccabean time period there, right? Am I getting?
So it would be.
I'll let you. I'm just going to open this up to you, man. You tell me a little bit. You educate us.
So here's one of the things, however, and I am by no means an eminent Jewish scholar in any way, shape, or form. I teach second grade Sunday school. Okay. I was born and raised Jewish. I teach my kids.
Good. You can keep it on the level for all of us to understand it that well.
So the events occurred, the traditional history is Alexander the Great was conquering the known world. Jerusalem surrendered to him, and so he let the Jews continue practicing Judaism as the dynasty of Alexander the Great continued on. The newer rulers became a little bit more suspicious of Jewish practice, a little bit more suspicious of how that could undermine authority in terms of, socioeconomic consolidation of religion, everything like that, if we're talking from a true historical perspective. And so they outlawed the practice of Judaism and mandated the erection of idols in town squares. And so there was a revolt, which started with Mattathias, who was the uncle of Judah Maccabee. Maccabee in Hebrew means hammer. So the idol smashers, Judah Maccabee, they smashed the idol, and that instigated the revolt against the Assyrian, what was perceived as occupiers, who were banning the practice of Judaism. So that's where the inception comes in. These occupiers had taken over the Holy Temple in Jerusalem and defiled it. Were banning the practice of Judaism. And of course, religious suppression is never okay.
Yeah.
Regardless of faith, religious suppression is never okay. So the small band of Hebrew soldiers fought the much larger army of the Assyrians from the mountains for a period of 3 years. Rocks and boulders, sticks and stones, they had no organized army. And so eventually, after 3 years, they won their independence and they took back the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. I'm sorry for playing with my beard. It's a habit. I'm trying to solve it.
You're good, man.
They took back the Holy Temple in Jerusalem and they found it defiled. By defiled, we're talking about things that were anathema to Judaism had been done in the temple. Sacrifices of pigs, which if you're looking at no-no. If you're looking at the laws of kashrut of the Jewish dietary laws, that's actually in the scripture as the prohibition of pork. It's one of two animals that's actually prescribed. Everything else is rabbinic. So, a pig had been slaughtered on the altar of Adonai. Idols had been erected, and there's always supposed to be a sacred light that burns 24 hours a day, all the time. The Ner Tamid, the eternal light, had been extinguished. And this was on the menorah of Jerusalem, which is a 6-armed menorah with a single candle in the middle. That had been extinguished. So at that point, they didn't use candles, they used oil. And in cleaning the temple, they found only enough oil for one night. And by miracle, because it takes about 8 days for more olive oil to be pressed and sanctified for the holy use, that one day of oil lasted for 8 nights instead, until new oil could be pressed. And so that would be the miracle of Hanukkah, the miracle of the Festival of Lights. So from a religious perspective, it's the miracle. From a historical perspective, it's a battle for independence.
Yeah, no, man, it's an amazing story, and it's such an amazing, like, there's a lot of faith involved in it, and as far as like the idea of the blessing that God bestowed on His people to like basically have that happen. So it's really cool.
I want to reiterate, this is one iteration.
Sure. No, I get that.
By no means claim to be an authority, and for every viewer that you have that has, a knowledge of history and a knowledge of the Old Testament or of Jewish tradition, you're going to get a different version. So,
oh, good. And I welcome people to honestly like share with us like what they have and going on in their family and things that they've been taught too, because I think it's good to hear all sides of it, and give that ability for that platform and that voice. So
that being said, it being a minor relative holiday, I think that it has such a popularity in America, in part because Jewish families, as they came over from wherever they were coming from, the diaspora, Eastern Europe or North Africa, and seeing the predominantly Christian society of America celebrating Christmas. Hanukkah happened to be around the same time. Yep. Families wanted to give their kids something more, so it evolved from more of the tradition of the Hanukkah miracle to a festival with presents and everything else. So the Americanized version of Hanukkah is much more than a lot of the rest of the world might celebrate. My mother-in-law is Israeli. She never celebrated American style growing up.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Like, so I know that with Hanukkah, there are like, you get the 7 nights. There's different things that go
8 nights.
8 nights. Sorry, my bad. What am I talking about? I should remember that 8 crazy nights. Adam Sandler. Like I got all that insight from Adam Sandler. Yeah, and then you get the menorahs. So, and I'm going to talk about that too in just a second, because I know like there's some very special like things behind the menorah and like different aspects of it. But so you have the 8 nights. There's different prayers and things like that. And this is the stuff that I got introduced to. One of the things I didn't know though, was I always assumed that families it was like like the Christmas tree, you have like one. I mean, some families have more than one Christmas tree in their house, and those people, I don't know how to really apply to them. But for Hanukkah, y'all have more than one menorah. And what's the deal with that?
So I think, again, as everything in Judaism, you're going to get as many different opinions as stars in the sky. Let's go back to Abraham. Okay. When I was growing up, we had one menorah for the family. That was it. We lit our one menorah. It was beautiful. It was tradition. There was absolutely nothing wrong with it. When I met my wife, Shira, she already had her own menorah. So why should we decide which menorah to use when both menorahs are fully legitimate and worthwhile and beautiful to be displayed? Mm-hmm. So when our first child was born, she received her own menorah as well. And so now we have a tradition where the first night we light everyone's menorah. Everyone gets to light the menorah the first night. And then each other night a child gets to light their own menorah. And then we have a night where we light the family menorah, which is a menorah that Shira and I got when we were dating. And then the final night, we light all the candles. Now, if my math is correct, you need 48 candles for a menorah for all 8 nights of Hanukkah, because you have the 8 branches of the Chanukiah, because in Hebrew, menorah is simply a candle holder. So
okay.
in the temple, the menorah was the candle holder for the Ner Tamid and had 6 branches. This is technically a Chanukiah because it has 8 branches with a central candle, which would be the shamish. You light the shamish and then you light the other candles. The newest candle always goes first because otherwise it gets jealous of the other candles.
And it's left to right, isn't it? Is that correct?
Just like Hebrew.
Yep, left to right. Yeah.
So the candles go in progression from left to right, but you always light the newest candle first. So the candles go in progression from left to right on a night by night basis, but you always light from right to left.
Ah, okay. Very cool. So, and like I said, like my family got involved with this a couple of years ago with Hanukkah, because of a post that you put. I don't remember if it was I don't know if it was on like just your public page, or if, I think it might have been just on your public page, possibly. It might have been in the National At Home Dad as well, but it was back a couple of years ago. There was an incident that took place in Pittsburgh where, and I think there were a few other places too, where synagogues were getting attacked. And I remember you posting the story about your daughter kind of being apprehensive about celebrating it because of just the oppression that was coming at the Jewish people. And I remember like turning to my wife and like reading the story to her, and was just like, look at this, like, listen to this story. And she knew you through just me talking about you from like Dad 2.0 and Home Dad Con and stuff. And we were just kind of talking about the fact that, like, yeah, you got the shirt on. Doug Fritch would be so happy. But anyway, I mean, we were just like, man, our kids, like, what would it look like for our kids to be in that situation? And, we really felt like we wanted to get behind, just supporting and showing like an allied spirit towards the Jewish people. And it seemed like a lot of other people were in the same camp. Like they were all just like, all right, like, what can I do? And you seem to take quite an initiative on it in a lot of ways. And we're very like open to talk to people and help out in some different areas. And like, we went out and like ended up buying our own, but it seemed like you were going kind of above and beyond. What was all going on at that time for you and your family?
So, as I said, I think earlier, I teach 2nd grade Sunday school. And pardon me if I get a little emotional. It's a pretty emotional memory.
Yeah, definitely.
I found out about the shooting at the Pittsburgh synagogue when I finished teaching Sunday school that day. A gunman had gone into the synagogue and opened fire. I forget if it was Sunday or Saturday, but I had just found out about it, knowing that and my daughter found out about it and said, Dad, do you think we should put up our Hanukkah decorations this year? Do you think we should put our menorah in the window? Because the tradition is to put your menorah in the window to broadcast your faith and your pride in your faith for everyone to see. And in a predominantly non-Jewish community. And we have a wonderful community in Naperville that has all different religions and cultures. And so we're truly blessed in that way. But she just didn't know if she felt safe doing that, broadcasting her faith.
Yeah.
And I said, sweetie, look, we have a menorah, or we have a mezuzah on our door. On every Jewish home, you'll see on the doorpost a small box, and that's called a mezuzah. That's a conversation for another home dad chat.
Yes, it is.
It identifies a Jewish home.
Mm-hmm.
I said, we're already identified as a Jewish home. The spirit of Hanukkah is to be proud of your faith. We can't let this hinder us. And there's a wonderful story about another community that put menorahs in their windows in support of a Jewish neighbor who had experienced anti-Semitism. And it inspired me to post, I believe nationally. But yeah, people all over the neighborhood wanted menorahs, and I worked with a local organization to provide menorahs to those families, whether through menorahs they had or menorahs I was able to snag. And it was beautiful. And I've never raised my children to be anything but proud of their heritage and their culture and background. So it was very special.
Yeah, no, it was
Absolutely.
definitely it was a time where it was really beautiful to actually like watch how you as a dad walk that out with your kid. I think that's something that as parents, like, it's not something on the forefront of like how would I deal with the situation kind of thing. But it was really to me, like I felt blessed to get to be brought into that circle, being able to like see you walk that out, and the way that you supported your kids, and the way that you were trying to just raise awareness to everybody else. And I don't know, like it was just, to me, like it was one of those things where it's like, man, like the unity that was involved, and people were like, I'm not Jewish, but man, I'm willing to like put this in my window, and I'm willing to celebrate this holiday that I know probably absolutely nothing about, but I'm willing to learn some things about it. And man,
I want to give a big shout out to Brian Gordon at Foul Language Comics as well. Because he did a beautiful piece. Brian does dad-centric comics with the Foul Language brand. I believe he's expanded into other avenues as well. But he did a really meaningful piece that he told me was inspired by that story. You can check it out on his website. But just in terms of identity and heritage and how we identify, I think it's meaningful when different cultures are represented and identified, whether it be Hanukkah, whether it be Diwali. Identity and representation matters, and my kids recognize the absence of recognition. Okay, they recognize when something is absent about Hanukkah, and it's only for Christmas or something like that. And so a happy holiday is appreciated as well as anything else, and we try to teach appreciation of all holidays regardless of how they're related to ourselves. Big shout out to Lowe's for wishing everyone a happy Hanukkah as well. The only corporation I saw that do it over Thanksgiving break.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Good for Lowe's.
That is cool. I didn't see that. I'll have to look for that. We'll have to post that up for sure, because that's awesome, man. I think that the other thing, honestly, with just the fact that like you're talking about like the happy holiday stuff, growing up Catholic, and then kind of transitioning into like just a non-denominational Christian side of thing, like people have had like such a hubbub about like, oh, like keep the merry in Christmas. And I'm just like, for me, like, I'm like, shut up. Like, seriously, like, be sensitive to the fact that you're not the only ones in the room. Like I have this conversation with people all the time. I'm like, how is it loving to exclude people during a time when everybody is celebrating a holiday? Like, why can't it just be happy holidays? And so I hope that more people catch on to just the fact that like kind of December is just very much just I feel like a season of faith, and really just enjoying celebrating with your family and coming together. Like that Thanksgiving to Christmas time, like that's the time of the year, man. You're like kind of closing up the year, especially after the past 2 years of how crazy it's been.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you look at the whole span of holidays over the year, regardless of culture, it's seasonal transition, right?
Right.
Fall into winter, spring into summer. We're
Mhm.
looking at the progression of seasons. We're looking at how it might have been observed and what might have been important to our ancestors.
Yeah.
So if you go developmental that way,
So
um,
what's Hanukkah look like for you and or for your family? Like, what do you guys do this? Because it started last night. It started Sunday night. So
Sunday night.
we're into night 3. So
Yes.
and everybody's going to be hearing this after it's over with, but still, like, what do you guys been doing as a family, and what are you guys going to be doing as the week goes on?
So quick crash course. First night was Sunday. First day was Monday. So all Jewish holidays start at sundown the night before. So anytime you see on a calendar a Jewish holiday, assume that it starts at sundown the night before. But we're lighting the candles, we're singing the songs, and for us, we've established for our family no gifts on the first night. Hanukkah is not about gifts. It's about the meaning. It's about the miracle. It's about perseverance and faith. And so we are strictly no gifts on the first night. And then we just try to break it up because, in America, it is a festival of giving as much as a festival of lights. It is, there are some different meanings in America as to other places. So we play Dreidel. Traditional Hanukkah game. It's a spinning top. It's actually a gambling game.
How do you play it? What is tell me about this game, because like
okay.
it's a to me it's a top. Like
if you're going to teach somebody a gambling game, you should ask them if they have money, right?
So if I'm going to ask you if you have money during Hanukkah, I'm going to ask you if you have gelt.
Oh, gelt.
Because gelt is Yiddish for money. Okay.
Okay.
So Eastern European Jews spoke Yiddish. Gelt is money. That's transitioned to our American culture as gelt being chocolate coins. So some families play for chocolate coins. My family, we used to play for like nuts, like pecans and almonds and walnuts and stuff. So you play with whatever. But everyone starts with a little pot, a little bit in the middle, and you spin the dreidel. And there's 4 sides, of course. You have the letter Nun in Hebrew. You have the letter Gimel, the letter Hey, and the letter Shin. And together that spells Nes, Gadol, Haya, Sham. Or in Hebrew, a great miracle happened there. That's an American dreidel. Now you have an Israeli dreidel. Nes, Gadol, Haya, Po. That letter is different because in America, a great miracle happened there. In Israel, a great miracle happened here.
Yeah.
So my mother-in-law picked up some Israeli dreidels for the kids. But it's a gambling game. If you spin and you land on Gimel, you get everything that's in the pot. You spin and you land on Hey, you put 2 in. You spin and you land on Shin. I'm sorry, you spin and you land on Shin, you put 2 in. Hey, you take 2 out. And Nun, nothing happens. It's a wash. Of course, there's variations on play, but that's the general thing. A great miracle happened there. There's some traditional stories behind the dreidel, the validity of which is questionable when you look at actual historical context, but it's a fun game nonetheless and associated with Hanukkah.
Yeah.
It sounds like fun.
Is the miracle that the lamp oil lasted the full 8 days? Is that the miracle that the Dreidel's talking about?
That would be the miracle with the Hanukkah story.
Just making sure I've got my details right.
Yes. Now, I even have Texas Hold'em dreidel. So there's all sorts of variations and adaptations that you can play. But it's a joyous holiday. It's a joyous holiday of perseverance. It's a joyous holiday of sharing, a family, of food, the traditional foods eaten during Hanukkah. I don't know how we're doing on timing.
Good. Bring it on,
East-
man. We got to hear the food part.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Food, of course.
Yeah, you're right where I want to be now. This is
Okay.
this is where the show starts for me.
So, again, another show, but we're talking different Jewish populations and different immigration groups. Eastern European Jews would traditionally eat latkes, or potato pancakes on Passover or on Hanukkah. Now, during Hanukkah, there is an absence of oil. So what do we do during Hanukkah? We eat foods fried in oil. We have an abundance. So these potato pancakes have to be fried in oil. In Israel, they don't have potato pancakes, right? Israel is an arid area. There you can't grow potatoes. North African Jews didn't have potatoes, so they ate other fried foods like jelly donuts, or sufganiyot. So the two most traditional foods associated with Hanukkah are potato pancakes, or latkes, and sufganiyot, or jelly donuts.
I'm sorry, sufganiyot? Is that what it?
Sufganiyot. Sufganiyot is the plural. Jelly donuts.
Yeah. I would love to be able to say jelly donuts in every language, just because. Just to
Ich
show
bin
up
ein
somewhere and go,
Berliner.
Sufganiyot. Yeah, right. I'm a donut. He's a donut. He's a donut.
About a month ago, I actually was at my local bottle shop. I actually picked up a jelly donut like ale, and it had like the menorah and everything on it. I was like, what? I gotta pick this up. I gotta try it. Like this spring. It was all right. It was a little weird. But it was all right. It was like a pastry something or other. I don't know. It was very odd.
Nah, I'll stick with my scotch.
Yeah. I love though the fact that the abundance is what you're celebrating.
Mm-hmm.
That we, because it was a time there was no oil, like you said, and oil for lamps, and then also oil in any way, of course. And that ability to step forward and say, yes, this was because of the description. Honestly, as I've read the description of the defiled temple previously, and the altar to Adonai, and it hit me hard because of just, well, I mean, obvious reasons. I'm not going to get into it, because I would literally cry if I tried to retell that story, because it's just terrible, but to come from that and to remind yourself, this is our abundance now, this is our life now, this is the glory and the wonder that we have, that we're living in, and that celebration of the rededication of that temple in my obviously non-Jewish mind is that same celebration, that same, yes, here we are. Yeah, it was awful. It was terrible, but this is what we're doing now. This is where we're at now. And I love that the celebration also involves eating a lot of fried food. I mean, that's beautiful.
And it's a joyous celebration, but so every joyous celebration, you celebrate however makes you most joyous.
Chaim, I'm sorry.
Hanukkah has been Americanized a little bit more in terms of decorations. If you were in Israel or other parts of the world, you would not see any decorations. Outside in our lawn right now, we have spinning dreidel lights projected onto the garage. We have a giant teddy bear holding a dreidel inflatable. I think it's about 7 feet tall. We have a Happy Hanukkah sign. We have some other dreidel lights under the pine tree. We had an 8-foot tall menorah that the motor just died on the blower. I'm trying to get replaced before.
You were telling me
Hanukkah.
about that. I feel so bad.
So our synagogue has a festival of lights, where we have a map of different families who have committed to decorating for Hanukkah, so that the Jewish children can have that same sense of seeing all the Christmas decorations, but seeing Hanukkah decorations.
Yeah, that representation. That's so important.
Well, so you were talking about like the chocolate coins and stuff, and it just reminded me of friends of mine. They partnered with a Jewish company, and they started up a chocolatier shop actually in the local coffee shop that's just down the street from me, and it's called Elon's Chocolate. And so it's a kosher certified chocolate. Oh my gosh, the stuff they make is freaking amazing. It's all like these like amazing dark chocolates and whatnot that are they're actually like mostly, I think they're like 70% like Peru Peruvian
Nice.
cow, but they're so good. I'll have to try to see if I can hook you up with some, man, because they are super good.
And they have to be better than the Hanukkah chocolates I got as a kid.
Oh, they definitely are.
I got to tell you. So, Judah Maccabee is the hero of the Hanukkah story, right? The idol smasher. So, you'd get a little chocolate Judah Maccabee wrapped in tinfoil. Well, you unwrap it, Santa Claus.
Oh,
They took a
boo.
chocolate figure that had a beard, put tinfoil over it with a beard, and called it Judah.
Oh my goodness, that's horrible.
Wow.
Jeez. There's some misrepresentation going on there for sure. Jeez.
It's funny, but awful.
Yeah. But man, I really appreciate you coming on though and sharing about your faith and about Hanukkah, because I feel like it's a conversation that comes up on the national close page quite frequently with guys, like, because you've got guys who are married, like there's mixed marriages. Like I remember one guy was saying, like, he's like, I'm Catholic, my wife's Jewish, like how do we do this thing? And other people are like, I found out I was Jewish, like what does that mean, kind of deal. And so I really hope that like guys listen to it, be able to get to hear a little bit of that. But I know that I've seen you jump in on some of those conversations, and other guys too jump in and be able to just sort of walk alongside of people. And I think that's the thing that I love most about the closed group is you can ask those questions and be open about it, and there's a lot of support there. So I really appreciate you getting to come on, that you came on the show, that you gave us time to talk about it. I really hope that your daughter is in a better place with everything after everything that's gone on.
She is. She's in a much better place, and she's crossing our fingers going to Israel this March with her youth group.
Awesome.
Hoping that travel stays open.
Yes.
But yeah, the Jewish identity, the Jewish pride, the connection with other underrepresented groups, visible or invisible, is there and important. And I appreciate Brock and Danny, you both having me on to talk about Hanukkah and how it fits into a season that so many people celebrate.
Definitely. Danny, you got any final things you want to say or anything? I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, no, I always have something to say, but I think time-wise, we're probably about where we need to be. My only thing was I was going to ask at some point, because I live in this is a brand new neighborhood where I live now. I don't really know anybody.
You're in Georgia?
I'm in Wisconsin now.
Oh,
So,
Wisconsin. Well,
I was in
never
Georgia.
mind.
I wasn't. Yeah,
In
right.
Georgia,
right.
I could help you out. In Wisconsin, what do you want?
Well, I was going to ask, if I did happen to see someone that was displaying and I'm going to still call it a menorah because I can't remember the other word.
Menorah is perfectly appropriate.
So if I see the candle holder in their window, is there something that I could bring them or do for them? Because my idea, is I want to go next door to the neighbors and make them some bread. I want to do, it's just something I'd like to do. And I really like the neighborhood. The community is very tight knit. And I have to believe that if there are any Jewish families in this area, that they're very few and far between. But we have a college right here. And of course, college can bring people from literally all over the world, although it's not that big a college. But if it was something that, what can I do to help, to support, I guess.
I think, the inclusivity aspect of keeping in mind how many different cultures have religious or cultural observances around this time is important, not just for Judaism, not just for Christianity, but for all cultures and faiths. That being said, in a college town, you could always see if that college has a Hillel chapter, which is a Jewish student organization. Reach out to them and ask them how you can be how can you be welcoming to that community. Regardless of faith, I would always be a little bit apprehensive just going up and knocking on someone's door and wishing them a happy holiday, just because who are you? Right. But if you see someone that has a menorah in their window working in their yard, just wish them a happy Hanukkah or wish them a happy holidays even, because it's just an acknowledgement of a special time.
Cool.
I love it. No, that's great.
Awesome answer, man.
Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, hey, yeah, we are up against the wall on time and everything. So, Ariel, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. I just love getting to hang out with you. And I was bummed that didn't get to happen at Home DadCon, but hopefully, we get to see you in Phoenix, man. And we can actually break some bread and share some whiskey together and have a good time.
Definitely.
The last time I think I broke bread and shared a drink with you was Orlando at the sushi place after I got on board.
Man.
So that's been a long time.
That has been quite some time. That was
lots of things have happened since then.
Well, you know what? That's when I found out you like whiskey, and that's when I found out Kid Sal likes whiskey as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was definitely a bonding experience, that's for sure. So, and that's what I love about National At Home Dad Network and everything. So
yeah.
But other than that, man, I hope that Hanukkah is just a great time for you and your family. Many blessings to you. And thanks for coming on the show. You have a great one. And we'll talk to everybody else again next week.
Thank you. L'chaim to life.
L'chaim.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.